So what we're looking at here is Nagios XI. As I mentioned, this is our commercial monitoring product. Nagios XI was designed from the beginning to be very flexible and extendable. So you'll notice as I go throughout the interface, I'll make references to items like components, configuration wizards, plugins. These are all items that can be added into the system to extend its capabilities. There's a lot of pre-made plugins available on what is called the Nagios Exchange, and we'll go over that a little bit later. But what I'd like to start talking about first and foremost is the concept of multi-user and multi-tenancy within Nagios XI. Nagios XI was designed to be a multi-user, multi-tenant application. And what I mean by that is administrators of the system can add in many different users, and each user has individual rights. Those rights allow them to see various hosts and services that are being monitored on the system, and each user also has the ability to change and customize their Nagios XI interface to be what they want it to be. So let's look at some of the settings that are available on an individual user basis in Nagios XI. Now we're currently logged in as the Nagios administrator. This is the highest level account, but it also has the same capabilities along with some additional ones. So each individual user has the ability to set up their own customizable notification preferences. They can enable notifications or disable notifications, and they can choose the types of notifications that they want to receive. If they just want to receive up-down notifications, they can do that. In addition to that, they can receive notifications when hosts or services go into downtime. They also can choose the times, hours of the day and days of the week in which to receive those notifications, and these are all settings on a per-user basis. Individual users also have the ability to set their notification methods. Some users prefer to receive their notifications via email, while other users may choose to receive them via mobile text. In addition to that, we have add-on equipment that can be added into Nagios XI. This is a multi-tech GSM modem, and this gives you the ability to receive your notifications via out-of-band text messages, which are delivered exclusively over the GSM phone network. An additional add-on is the ability to send notifications right to an RSS feed if you so choose. Now the messages that are actually sent are also customizable, again on a per-user basis, with some extended capabilities for Nagios XI Enterprise versions of administrators giving the ability to lock down the messages that are sent. But each individual user in a standard system would have the ability to customize the message that is actually sent when an alert is generated. The email messages have macros within them that can be automatically populated by the Nagios system, and these messages can be changed to give a different set of information based on what the user would like to see. In addition to that, you can also change the notification message for each of your notification methods. So for example, if you wanted a smaller, more compact message for your mobile text messages, you can slim that down to just a very compact message. In addition to notification preferences, the users also can change what is displayed on their homepage. So they can choose a dashboard within the system, or they can choose a custom URL, which can be either an internal URL to the Nagios XI system or an external URL to any remote web page. Users also have the ability to create their own customizable views and dashboards. We'll go over views first. What the views are is basically a list of URLs that the user will add into the rotation, and these items will automatically rotate on intervals defined by the slider on the right-hand side. So this could be a constantly refreshing screen that rotates continuously. And so you can take any of the pages within XI full screen simply by clicking on the triangle in the upper left-hand corner. In addition to views, users get to create their own customizable dashboards. Dashboards can be created on a per-user basis, or dashboards can also be deployed from administrators to end users. So when a user wants to add a new dashboard, they simply can click the Add New Dashboard, give it a name and a background color, and it will show up in the My Dashboard section on the left-hand side. So we have a couple in here that have been populated with various components or dashlets that are found within the XI interface. These can be unlocked, moved around to various locations that you want, and then locked back into place. If you decide you no longer want a particular dashlet, you actually can remove it just by simply clicking the delete icon. And we can see we have several different kinds of information available within the dashlets that we have here. Throughout the XI system, you'll see as we go along some what we call a Dashify icon. It's this blue icon right here. And if you hover over that Dashify icon, it'll give you the ability to add a particular dashlet to any dashboard within the system. You simply select the dashboard you'd like to add it to, give it a name, and then click Add It. It'll automatically add the dashboard. So looking again at some of the dashboards that we've pre-created on here, we have a couple host group dashlets that we've added into this page. We have a dashlet that contains performance data for this particular database that we're monitoring, as well as several other items. We have a Graph Explorer component. We can put more detailed performance data right in the dashlet, also giving us the ability to zoom right in. So dashboards, as I mentioned, could also be deployed from an administrator. So as an administrator, if you create a dashboard that you'd like to deploy to other users on the system, you simply go to the Deploy Dashboards area, select the dashboard that you'd like to deploy, and you also have the option to keep the dashboard synced. Whereas if you make changes to the dashboard in the future, all of those changes will be replicated to all the users who you've deployed the dashboard to. So if I'd like to deploy this dashboard out to the Ryan Howard and the Nick user, I simply select those two users, click Deploy Dashboards, and from this point forward, when they log in, they will have the database server group dashboard available to them as well. Users also have the ability to create customizable reports. At the top left-hand side of the report screen, we'll see the My Reports section. And basically what this gives the user the ability to do is set up a report. Say they wanted to run a report for last week on the Linux server host group. They can simply run the report. Once the report's been generated, if they click this star on the right-hand side here, they can add this to their My Reports. So I'm going to go Linux servers last week. Delete that extra off there. We're going to save the report. From this point forward, when I go back to the reports page, I'll see this Linux server last week. I can drill right into it. It automatically has the time and the limit to criteria already specified. In addition to being able to save reports, users also have the ability to download reports as PDFs, save CSV data out of the reports. They can also email reports if they want to send this report to a specific email address, including any attachments that they so choose. And additionally, in the 2012 Enterprise version, we also have the ability to schedule this report to be delivered on interval in the future. So if I want the report to be sent daily, weekly, or monthly, I can specify that. Being this is a weekly report, I'll specify weekly, and it's going to send this report out every Monday to the users that I specify in the recipients list. Once I save the report, I can see the report that I've just saved right down here. Have a couple saved with the same name. I can also choose to send it immediately whenever I want, make changes to it, or view the report. So let's take a look at some of the reports that are available within the XI interface. First, we have an executive summary report. This is an aggregated view of multiple items throughout the interface. We have availability, top alert producers, alert histogram, and latest alerts. Again, just about all of the reports have the ability to filter them down to specific time periods and even enter custom time periods where you can enter in your own date range that you want to run the report over. We already saw the availability report, again, giving you the ability to filter that down. And once we filter down to any specific criteria, be it a host or host group, we'll see that we have detailed statistics for all of the hosts and services within the group. So here's all the hosts that we have listed in the group and each of the services that are being monitored on those particular hosts, along with detailed information for uptime, what their states were, okay, warning, unknown, or critical. So we have a top alert producers report. This is going to give us the top alert producers on the system. We can click any of these links to drill right into the service detail page for any of the particular items in the list, which is kind of nice. But what this report is giving us is the hosts and service that are producing the most alerts within the given time period. Additionally, we have a state history report. This report will display any state changes by any of the hosts or services, and also give you the ability to drill right into the specific host or service. Let's see, we already saw top alert producers. Alert histogram is a graphic of time from left to right and quantity of alerts generated within the hours given. We also have a notifications report, which basically logs all of the notifications that have been sent out by the system, what host and service you're notifying on, as well as who the contact that was notified. We can see this one was sent to Nagios admin, this one was sent to my contact, this one was sent to N. Scott, so on and so forth. The dispatcher, which the Nagios XI dispatcher is the main dispatcher within XI. However, it does have the flexibility to be able to use different dispatchers or commands that can be issued from the command line to be able to send notifications into third-party ticketing systems, etc. We also have an event log. This is a standard event log in 4 items in Nagios XI and Nagios core underlying engine. The nice thing about the event log here is it gives us the ability to search for specific strings if we're trying to find a particular event that we believed happened, but just want to quantify that. We also, in 2012, added the bandwidth utilization report, and this gives us the ability to select any of the ports that we're monitoring based on our switch and router wizard, and give us a graphical performance graphs for the last day, week, month, and year, as well as, excuse me, as well as giving us the detailed information for the quantity of data sent out over the link, inbound, outbound, max, and summary, by month, quarter, and year. A new addition in the 2012 enterprise version of Nagios XI is a capacity planning report. And this gives us the ability to select a service that we're monitoring. We're going to take a look at the root partition on localhost. And what the capacity planning gives us the ability to do is take an amount of data that we've collected. So we've collected 16 weeks of data for this particular service. And we can use various different extrapolation algorithms to extrapolate where we believe this particular service will be into the future. So I'm going to look at 16 weeks of data historically and calculate out where that would be into the future. So the yellow area is displaying the data that we've collected by monitoring this particular device, and the blue is going to represent where we believe we'll be at some point in the future. As I mouse over these, we'll see that on March 6, 2014, Nagios XI believes that this root partition will have 11.5 gigs of data on it. So that's just a nice way. It works equally well for disk partitions as well as memory utilization, bandwidth utilization, so on and so forth. We also have some additional data visualizations. Alert heat map kind of gives us left to right as a time period. Vertically, we have hosts and services that are being monitored. And where we have the same item going down over and over and over again, we likely have a problem with a particular host or services on that host. We'll see the same item repeating over and over again. We can drill in and view the detailed specifics simply by giving a click on the heat map. We also have another visualization, alert stream. This gives us a representation of the quantity of alerts that are generated by our specific hosts, and their size is based on how many alerts they generated in the time period given. If I give a quick double click on any given host, I can see all of the services that we're monitoring on that host and get the same representation for the services. This is a great way if you have many hosts or many services on the system and you want to see which are your biggest offenders. You can go ahead and take a look at that with just a couple clicks. In addition to all the Nagios XI reports I've shown, we also have legacy reports for those familiar with the Nagios core system. all of the legacy reports from core can also be run from within the XI interface. So before we move into the general viewing area, I wanted to take a quick stop at the administrator menu. And there's some additional items that I'd like to touch on really quick. In the 2012 Enterprise version, we've added audit logging, and this gives you basically the whodunit report for who made changes on the XI system. So if a change was made or something was disabled or enabled and you need to track that down, you can do so from the audit log. Additionally, we also added to the Enterprise version notification management. This takes the notification information that I had showed you earlier that each individual user has the ability to change and modify. An administrator can come in here and you can actually create templates, and those templates can be deployed out to individual users or groups of users. In addition to the email and text settings, you also can customize the notification options, choosing to enable notifications, which types of notifications should be enabled, and the ability to lock down notifications if you do not want these end users to have the ability to make changes to them. Time periods as well can also be deployed. So you just set these up, select the users that you want, and click Update Settings. It'll automatically deploy those out to those users. Additionally, as I had mentioned earlier, Nagios XI was designed to be very extendable and extensible. You'll see in the bottom left here we have 5 menu items: Manage Components, Dashlets, Config Wizards, Plugins, and SNMP MIBs. And these can be added into the system simply by uploading them through the web UI. Components, Dashlets, and Configuration Wizards are zip files that can be downloaded from the Nagios Exchange. Exchange.nagios.org is a great resource for anyone using Nagios XI or Nagios Core. There's a little over 3,700 different projects that have been added to the Exchange, and these are all items that can be added into the Nagios XI system to extend its capabilities. What plugins are to Nagios XI is they are what the system uses to monitor various types of equipment. So, for example, if you don't find a prepackaged wizard within Nagios XI, and we'll go over wizards in just a moment, but if you don't find a prepackaged wizard, but you'd still like to monitor a particular type of device, say a JBoss device, for example, you can type JBoss in the Nagios Exchange search criteria, give it a quick search. It will find all the available JBoss plugins that have been created either by Nagios Enterprises or by a community member. These can be added into the Nagios XI system to extend its capabilities. Same goes if you're looking to monitor SANs or NASs, you can just type in SAN. You'll find actually we even have a subcategory for this with 67 different listings broken down by specific vendor. Components and configuration wizards also can be downloaded from Nagios XI. What components are to Nagios XI is really anything for the UI. A component can extend the capabilities of Nagios XI by adding menu items as well as linking in, grabbing data that is available, and manipulating that data and outputting it however you like. Many of the features we'll go over in just a moment were items that were added in as components into XI, but they come pre-packaged and delivered with 2012. As we can see, we have a list of quite a few components that have been added to the system. We do have a smart check for updates feature here. So the components that were added to the system that were developed by Nagios Enterprises and not customized by you will contain a version, and we keep a version information. If there's new components or updated components available, you can simply download the components and upload them to update them into the system. Configuration wizards work the exact same way. We have many configuration wizards that are pre-added in the 2012 version of XI, and we'll run a few of those in just a moment. So let's take a look at the main user interface within Nagios XI. And a lot of the items that we go over here, you'll hear me say this was an add-on component that is available automatically in 2012. So the first item we'll go over is just a tactical overview. This gives you a high-level overview of the state of the devices that you're monitoring. Now, one thing to point out here is we are logged in as an administrator, which gives us the right to see every item that we're monitoring on the system. However, if you create an individual user, they will only have the rights to see the items in which they are a contact for, unless you specify otherwise. There are additional parameters where you can specify non-administrative users to have the ability to see all of the devices or to see them read-only, etc. But so we're looking at the state of our whole monitoring environment. You'll see some of these items are also broken down into dashlets, so I could add these to dashboards if I so choose. But I can take any particular item within here, give it a quick click, and drill down to a detailed view. So if I wanted to see all of our services in a critical state, I can simply give a click on the screen there. It'll drill me right in, view all of the services that we have in a critical state. Additionally, we have an add-on component that's designed to be placed on large overhead LCD screens. This is the operations center. It can be taken full screen, placed on a LCD screen, and it only reports the items, the hosts that are in a down state at the top, and down below it's going to report all of the hosts that are up, but they have services that are down, and list them individually. On our demo box, we have, for demonstration purposes, quite a few services in the down state, but generally speaking, this is all nice and compact and can fit well on a LCD screen. We also have some quick links to just be able to view open service and host problems, so we can drill in, see what problems aren't currently acknowledged on the system, take a look at them. If we choose to do so, we can acknowledge the problem right from the service detail page, giving it a "I'm working on it," and then this tells the system that somebody's actively working on it. It displays the person that acknowledged it. I'm the Nagios administrator, so it's displaying Nagios administrator there. And from this point forward, this particular service will no longer send out notifications because it's already been acknowledged as a problem. The default behavior in XI is to send out notifications every 60 minutes. However, that is something that can be overridden and modified. So we can drill in, like I mentioned, see all the open hosts and service problems, or all service problems, whether they're open or not. Additionally, we have a quick find capability, so I can start typing the name of a particular host or service I want to find, give it a go, and this will bring me to a listing of my host and all the services that I'm monitoring on this particular host. You'll notice these little icons just to the right of the individual service name. I can give a click on this. This is the D drive on my workstation, and it's going to give me the performance graph information for this particular device, the last 24 hours. Maybe the CPU usage might be a little bit more interesting. We can see we had some spikes here and whatnot. Also, I can drill in to view more detailed information. I can see the result of the plugin, what my total quantity of gigabytes used, free, etc., as well as viewing the basic service status details. I can schedule a check immediately right from the web interface. I can look at the detailed performance graphs. Again, you'll see these Dashify icons to be able to add performance graphs to any page. If I click on the performance graph, it'll take me to another view that gives me the option to extend this out. Instead of a 24-hour view, I can view a week, month, or a year for all of the time that we've been monitoring this particular machine. So that's just a great way to be able to drill in and see how far back we've been monitoring and what that drive's been doing over time. Going back to take a look at the service status detail page, we also have an advanced page where we can change different criteria. As we see, I have notifications turned off for this particular service, but if I wanted to turn notifications on again, I could go ahead and enable those just with a simple click. Additionally, from the advanced tab, we can schedule downtime for this particular service. If we know it's going to be going down, we could go ahead and schedule that right there. Configuration changes can also be made from the configuration tab. I can reconfigure this service. I could change the notifications, which person I want to be notified. I can go ahead and update that, and this will automatically apply that change from this point forward for this service. Some additional views we have is the full service detail. This is listing us every host and service we have on the system. And we have little components up at the top right with quick links to view all of the OK warning unknown criticals. We can drill right into any of them. Nagios XI has the ability to take your hosts and group them into host groups and service groups if you so choose, and we have several different displays for these. This is giving us a summary of all of the host groups that are configured on the system with detailed status information of the services and hosts that we're monitoring within the host groups. We also have another view broken down into individual host groups, and each of these lists all of the hosts within the host group and then detailed statistics for those particular services running on any individual host. This gives us the ability to break this down and add these as a dashlet onto various dashboards. If I was just the Linux administrator only interested in the information that's going on the Linux servers, I could go ahead and just add that dashboard along with all of the other relevant information for my day-to-day operations. Another great add-on component for Nagios XI is the Nagios BPI. This is the Business Process Intelligence Engine, and this gives us the ability to take the items in which we're monitoring and group them into a business process. And what that means is we can go into this system. I'm just going to edit our local services one that we have. And we can create a group of services that we want to group together. So, for example, I'm going to scroll down here and just grab a collection of items. Each of these could be, for example, a individual web servers on different hosts that we're monitoring in a web server cluster. We could, within these, we can set individual items to be, essential members. Whereas essential members, if that item goes into a down state, the whole group will be down. However, if that item is up, we will need to meet the threshold, the warning and critical percentage. So if we set the warning percentage to 50% and the critical percentage to 75%, 50% of the items in our group will have to be in a down state, or 75% will have to be in a down state to mark them as critical. And what this gives us the ability to do is take the items as a whole that we're monitoring, and we can generate alerts based on the group as a whole. As we can see, I have two items that are marked critical, but they weren't essential members, so I haven't met the critical threshold, and this item is still okay. Once I reach the critical threshold, which I set to 75%, the group as a whole will be marked critical, and then we can send alerts out to various people based on the group as a whole. There is no limit to the depth, so you actually can add groups that we're monitoring as subgroups to additional items, and so on and so on. Another add-on component that we have is the Graph Explorer. This gives us the ability to view graphs in a little larger, more detailed state. So we have top alert producers, host health, and a pie chart. We can separate these out if we want. Service health, this is system-wide. We also have the ability to view scalable performance graphs. So we'll take a look at current load on our local host. Now, our current load issues 3 sets of performance data for this one plugin. We have a 1-minute, 5-minute, and 15-minute load. If I'm not really interested in the 1-minute load, I can just give a quick click and disable that and just have the view just concentrate on the 5 and the 15-minute load. If I want to extend this out beyond the 24-hour time period and I want to go 30 days, I can extend that out to a longer time frame. It's going to take a little bit longer because there's a lot of data available. Oh, excuse me, I missed the minus. Let's try that one more time. Minus 30. And so we see we have one spike that happened somewhere around here, but we can't really narrow in on it. Well, what the Graph Explorer gives us the ability to do is just click and drag. We can zoom right into a particular point in time, place our mouse right over the peak that we want the details for, and get the actual readings from that exact time. In addition, the Graph Explorer gives us the ability to do time stack graphs. So if I wanted to look at, say, the root partition on this machine again, we have 3 sets of data, and this is maybe a little less interesting than what some of yours will be because the data is so similar. But what the blue is representing is the last 24 hours, and I can stack on here 24 to 48 hours, and stack on again 48 to 72 hours. And we can set different time frames, so we're currently looking at the last 3 days, but if I wanted to look at the last 3 months, we can do that as well. Again, blue being the last 30 days, green 30 to 60, and orange 60 to 90. So that's just a great way to see how you're stacking up over time. Some additional visualizations we have are the BB map. This is going to give you a list of all of your hosts, or hosts vertically limited to whatever you specify in the host or service group. And then across the services are all the particular services that we're monitoring on all of these hosts. Where there's no dot, we're not monitoring that particular service for a given host. But the red dots are going to specify a critical state, green is an OK state, yellow is a warning state, etc. We also have a Google Map add-on component. If you place geo-coordinates, latitude and longitude, in for your host, Nagios will automatically plot the pushpins on the map where the host actually resides. Green pushpin for OK host, red pushpin for down host. We can give a quick click, view the host name, the last output for that particular check, as well as drill into the service detail page if we need to look at a little more detailed information. Additional items, Hypermap is a visualization utilizing parent-child relationships of your XI installation. Nagios gives you the ability to specify parent-child relationships, and this sets up a scenario where, in the eyes of from the Nagios process, we can see we're going through localhost, then we need to go through our Office backbone before we can actually reach these items out here. If our Office backbone goes out, Nagios is smart enough to realize that these items probably aren't down per se, they're just unreachable, so it wants to mark them in a state of unreachable as opposed to down. And this gives you the ability, if you so choose, to filter out unreachable so they don't send out alerts just because the device couldn't actually be accessed. Additionally, the hypermap can be zoomed in to any particular point if we want to see a more detailed point of reference somewhere further down the map. Let's see. And additionally, we have a mind map visualization. This, similar to the BB map, is going to give us a dot for each of the services, listing all of our hosts vertically. Red is the critical areas. Green, OK. Now let's move on to incident management. We can see the latest alerts on the system. This is kind of important which hosts and services have generated alerts. Acknowledgements on the system. As we remember earlier, I had acknowledged an item. Those acknowledgements will show up in here that it's being worked on. And this kind of is an audit trail, so somebody can go in, see which items are being worked on. If they want to go in and add additional comments, they can drill right into the specific service detail page and do so. As I mentioned earlier, Nagios does give you the ability to schedule items into downtime. If you have a fixed downtime and you expect it to be down, you can schedule the downtimes into the Nagios system. Nagios will continue to monitor the items, but will not send out alerts during downtime. So that's kind of a nice way to be able to suppress alerts if you have a maintenance window coming up that you know about. In addition to that, Nagios XI has the ability to schedule reoccurring downtimes. So if you have a maintenance window that happens on a specific time of the month or day of the week, and it reoccurs over and over again, you can specify a given host to have that downtime. So I'm going to go ahead and start typing one of mine. As we see, we'll select our Scott server again. We could select an individual service if it's just the service is going to be down, but if the whole host is down, we can select that. Put in a start time, select our duration, and day of the week that it's going to happen on, or day of the month. We can also combine these and do things like select the, oops, need to turn my number lock on. There we go. So what this is going to do is, if the Monday is the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th, which would be the first Monday of the month, it would automatically schedule this machine for downtime. We also, as we saw from the reports menu, we do have notifications quick link from the main XI homepage. So let's get in real quick on showing you how you would go about configuring hosts and services within Nagios XI. Nagios does have an auto discovery feature available, which gives you the ability to set up discovery jobs, and we can basically enter in a net mask of IP addresses in here, choose the frequency that we want the job to run on if we want to run it more than once. Additionally, we can turn on OS detection and have that also output what OS's Nagios believes from the scan that the machines are. So if we go back, we can look at some previously run jobs. I can go ahead and click to view the devices, and this is going to give me a list actually walking us right into a wizard where if I so chose, I could actually choose to monitor these particular ports that it found on these systems. But let's actually go back and we'll look at some additional information that is available. We could just go to the scan results, get a list of IP addresses. This one didn't do OS detection, so we can't actually see that. But it also will state whether this is a new device or if this is a device that we maybe are already monitoring. As we see when I click to choose Show All, we have a device that we're already actually looking at here or monitoring on the system, so that's coming up as an old device. Additionally, we can show the discovered services, and this will show us all of the ports that we're able to get a response from our scan. So let's look at some of the other monitoring wizards that come prepackaged with XI 2012. Nagios XI 2012 has a whole host of different items that are already prepackaged into the monitoring system. We see we have wizards that are pre-configured. BPI wizard would set up monitoring for a BPI group that you had set up with the BPI add-on component. We have Dell Open Manage, DHCP, email delivery wizard, Exchange servers, Linux servers, mail servers, every major database system on the market. Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres, Oracle. They're all have wizards automatically created for them. We can run queries against the server or check server statistics. Let's see, we also have Linux wizards. We can monitor any SNMP OID, and we can also set up Nagios XI to receive SNMP traps and send out alerts on those as well. We can monitor network switches and routers, full VMware infrastructure, including ESX servers, vSphere or vCenter servers, everything pretty much right out of the box. Network switches and routers, we'll go through that in just a moment. Standard website, transactional websites, as well as several different flavors of and ways to monitor Windows servers. So let's first run through a network switch and router wizard. And what this wizard does, it gives us the ability to plug in a IP address or host name for a switch or router, pop in an SNMP community string. If we know the vendor or if it's one of the items listed, we could select it. Otherwise, we'll just leave other selected. And we can choose to just use the port numbers off this particular device, or we can actually grab the port descriptions right off the device. For now, I'm just going to choose port numbers, and I'm going to leave scan interfaces selected. Now, before I click next, it's going to actually give me an option to edit the warning and critical threshold levels that will be pre-populated on the following screen. So I'm going to actually change those warning levels to 30% and 50%. And we could also specify default port speed. Now, when I click this next button, what's actually happening is Nagios XI is making a connection to this specific switch and is actually finding which ports are available and can be monitored on this particular switch. So we have 8 ports that aren't administratively down, and it has them pre-populated in the list. I chose just to use the port number, so it just has port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on in the port name. If I would have chose port description, it would have actually downloaded the port descriptions as they are on the switch and pre-populated them in this field. On the previous screen, I changed my warning rate to 30, so these are pre-populated, inbound and outbound 30 and 50. I could change those on an individual port if I wanted to, but I'm going to leave the defaults just for the time's sake. And we'll click next. Now, all of the wizards end the same exact way, and it's going to ask us a couple quick questions. At any point, we could always click Finish to accept the defaults, and the wizard would come to a completion, and start monitoring. So under normal circumstances, it's asking us how frequently we want to monitor this device. Default is 5 minutes. I'm going to leave that set as it is. And then the next section is asking us, when a problem occurs, what would we like to do? So the default behavior is to switch, instead of monitoring every 5 minutes, to switch down to monitor every 1 minute for 5 times before generating an alert. Now, this is the default behavior, but you certainly can override it. But what this does give you the ability to do is filter out some false positives. So if you had a network interruption or something of that nature, and the device couldn't actually be monitored, it would actually retry in 1 minute, on 1 minute intervals 5 times before it generates an alert. Leaving the default behavior, I'm going to go ahead and click Next. On this screen, it's going to give me the option of who I want to be notified. So I'm going to actually make Nick responsible for this. By default, it's selected myself, and I'm actually going to remove myself and just add the Nick user. Additionally, as I had mentioned earlier, the default is to send a notification every 60 minutes as long as this item remains in a down state. So we could change that threshold here if we so chose, but I'm going to leave the defaults. On the following screen, it's going to ask us if we'd like to add this to any host groups or service groups. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to my switches host group. I don't have a service group specified for these, but you could add one if you so chose. And I also can choose from the screen a parent host. And this is what will establish our parent-child relationships. So I'm going to choose our firewall as our parent host because that's where this item resides. So I'm going to click Next there. And then the following screen is asking us to apply the configuration. So I'm going to go ahead and click Apply. And what Nagios is doing is, underneath the hood, it's verifying that this configuration is in fact valid. If it is, it restarted the monitoring engine. We can see our alert status is showing that it went down momentarily. And it restarts the monitoring engine. And if we give all green here, it comes back up. If for whatever reason there was a problem, it would automatically roll back to the last known good configuration and then alert you so you can make changes to your monitoring configuration. So let's take a look at the items in which we've just set up. Now, I had previously run this wizard in the past, so it is all populated with some okays, some warning, criticals, etc. If you were running this for a first run, these generally would be all pending for approximately 10 minutes while the first couple sets of data were populated, and then they would go into an OK state, and you would have performance graphs available. Now, I had just added these individual port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. What we're seeing down below here is I have run this wizard in the past choosing port description, and the port description on this device was port 1 gigabit and port 2 gigabit, etc. So we can see just that easy we've set up monitoring wizard. The fact that we've ran this wizard multiple times does point out and illustrate one important fact with the wizards in XI. If you run a wizard multiple times, they are additive. So say, for example, you run a Windows wizard and add in a group of services, and then you decide, oh, geez, I needed to monitor the D, E, and F drive on that particular device. You actually can just run the wizard again, adding in the D, E, and F drive, and that will start monitoring those from that point forward. So while we're talking about Windows wizards, let's go ahead and run one of the Windows monitoring wizards. We have a couple different ways that you can monitor Windows devices. One is with a agent-based wizard, and that's our Windows Server wizard here. And we also have agent-less monitoring, so you can monitor your Windows devices via SNMP or WMI. And that's a common theme within XI, is that we have options for agent-based monitoring and agent-less monitoring. Agent-less monitoring can monitor most common metrics. However, agent-based monitoring does give you the ability to add in some very specific checks and write your own plugins to be executed on the remote system. So what we're going to do is we're going to run our agent-based wizard for the Windows Server. I'm going to type in an IP address, click Next. And I'm actually going to give this a host name, Scott Server. And then again, you recognize that I've ran this one in the past. And what we're going to do is type in default password. And now what we can see are some predefined checks that are very common to be added into numerous systems. So we have standard ping check, CPU check, memory, uptime. And then we have disk utilization, and I'm actually going to select my C drive, D drive, and we'll this time also select the E and F drive, just as an example. And I'm going to delete that final row off there. Doesn't really matter, you could leave it on there. We can also monitor with this agent-based system, we can monitor services. So we can type any Windows service that we want to make sure is running on the system, as well as any individual processes. We can add those as well. This particular agent-based wizard also has the ability to monitor any Windows performance counter. On a stock Windows workstation, there's about 2,000 Windows performance counters, and those are counters that you can find just by running the Windows perfmon application. So once you add in additional items, though, on a server, that number goes up. For example, if you were to we're running an Internet Information Server, you'll have all of the metrics for that. Same with a Microsoft SQL Server, so on and so forth. So we could choose to monitor any of these performance counters as well. We can also add an unlimited amount of rows. If we want to continue on adding more than the 4 or 5 rows that are there, go ahead and delete some of these. We can add additional rows there as well. I'm actually not going to add any performance counters at this time, but they are available. So as I had mentioned before, step 4, 5, and 6 are all the same for all the wizards. So I'm going to go ahead and just click Finish here, let it write the configuration, and we'll take a look at the output that we have. So once it is completed, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here. So as I had mentioned before, if I decided that, I needed to add my E and F drive, I went ahead and added them this time. Now they are available, and we could monitor, or they will start monitoring as well. An additional wizard that makes deploying to many, many, many systems in one go a breeze is the bulk host cloning and import wizard. And what this lets us do is take a host that we've previously set up, and I'm going to find my Scott server here. So we've previously configured the server with all of the stuff that we want to be deployed out to a whole host of different systems. And when I click next, it's going to give me a list of all of the items that we're monitoring on this particular server. If I want to deploy these out to additional servers, I can go ahead and select the items that I want to deploy out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave my drive D, E, and F off because the systems that I'm going to clone this out to don't have D, E, and F drives, so I'm just going to leave them off there, as well as the service description and the Explorer process that we were monitoring. So I'm going to add in three new hosts, and you can actually just paste CSV data in here to add the address of the machine. You can also optionally add in the name and description in additional columns, just comma separated. So we're going to add the same setup, same configuration, minus these items here, and we're going to add it to these 3 servers. Now it doesn't really matter if you're adding 3 servers or 100 servers, the process is all the same. You just click Next, Finish, and once this gets done writing the configuration, we'll take a look at the 3 new servers in which we're monitoring. So now that the configuration is complete, we're going to head on back to home. Actually, first I'm going to bring up my Scott server. I'm going to open this in a new tab here. We'll take a look at all the services on it. And then I'm going to go to my host detail. And we see we have 3 new services. They're actually fake services or fake hosts that don't exist, so that's why they're already coming back down. And each of these hosts is now configured with the exact same services that we had monitored on the Scott server without the additional drives, or that service description or Explorer that I had left out. So it's just a quick way, if you have many servers that are exactly the same, to be able to run through those, on the wizard. So let's go ahead and let's look at just one more, and then we'll kind of open it up for questions. We have various different ways to monitor Linux systems. One way is through the agent-based system that can monitor some default Linux OSs. And additionally, we have an agent that can be installed on a whole host of different Linux-based systems, and that's our NRPE agent. And actually, this is going to answer one of the questions that's come in. But we can choose the NRPE agent, install NRPE on any of these various operating systems, and actually you could even be any other operating system. And the NRPE agent, I'm just going to put in some fake information here so we can see. It gives us the ability to add in commands, and we can, based on our NRPE configuration, can really monitor any plugin on the remote system. So going back to the monitoring wizards, let's take a quick run through a VMware wizard for something new and exciting. So VMware wizard gives us the ability to monitor either an individual VMware host, or we can actually monitor a vCenter server, which is what I'm going to monitor here. So I'm going to put in my credentials. And what this is going to do is it's actually going to log into our vCenter server and download a list of guests. If I choose, I'm going to not monitor the host. I'm going to actually choose that I want to monitor the guest. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. And this will take just a minute. But what the Nagios VMware wizard is actually doing is making a connection to our vCenter server, and it's actually downloading a list of active VMs so I can guests on the system, so I can monitor those guests directly. We do have a fairly large VM server. Okay, so now we can choose the metrics in which we want to monitor. I'm going to select all of them. And then we can choose our guest selection. By default, it has all of our powered on VMs already selected. We can see we have a big list of VMs here. All the powered on ones are automatically selected. So I can just finish running the wizard simply by clicking next, and then finish, and that will complete the wizard. I actually am not going to do this because I don't want to populate all these. Actually, I'm going to go back one step. It's going to rerun the scan, and I'm going to disable some of those checks so we only add just a couple into the system. But this does show how flexible the system is to be able to go out to remote systems, collect a list of items that we want to monitor, and set those up and monitor them. So actually, let's, instead of doing a host, I'm going to go back one more page, and we'll choose to just monitor this host. We're going to choose some different metrics. Actually, data store off. Click finish, and that will go ahead and set up that monitoring. At this point, I'd like you to go ahead and type any questions that you may have in the text chat section of your WebEx screen. I'd be more than happy to answer as many as I can. While we're waiting for some of those to come in, I'm going to let Seamus talk a little bit about some of the items that are included with all of our XI licenses and whatnot. So
yeah,
take it away, Seamus.
Well, first, thanks for attending, everybody. Great to be able to show you some of the cool stuff in XI. As far as licensing goes, we've got a licensing option for pretty much any size of environment, any kind of environment. From somebody who's just monitoring 20 or 30 servers to somebody who's got tens of thousands of devices. So we've got some great single serve options. We have some excellent site-wide pricing as well. One really cool thing about our licensing setup is that we actually approve each install for each license for up to 3 installs. So you get a production install, you get a backup install, and you get a test dev install with each license. So you don't have to actually spend more to get, you have a high availability setup and try out things pre-production before you put them into production. If you have questions or want to find out what options might work best for you, feel free to email sales@nagios.com. We'd be happy to find out a little bit more about your environment and maybe recommend a licensing strategy. We also offer free support on our general support forum, and that's a direct line through to the same techs you'd work with as a licensed client. And you can register there at support.nagios.com/forum. And if you'd like to email the username that you registered to sales@nagios.com, we can expedite your ability to post new topics and get you set up right away.
Excellent. Well, a couple questions are coming in. The first question was, does Nagios support SUSE? And because it's not in the drop-down on the Linux Server Wizard, I kind of touched on that. You actually can use the NRPE installed on SUSE to send out that configuration. A follow-up question along the same lines was if they're using NRPE, can Nagios server push out plugins that they write to their server automatically? Nagios doesn't have that capabilities specifically with NRPE. However, we do have something that I didn't cover, which brings up another point. There's a lot of items within Nagios XI and capabilities that I haven't even talked about, haven't scratched the surface. We just have done a very, very, very high-level overview. But I would highly recommend anyone interested to download the 60-day trial to be able to really dig in there. But that said, I've brought us to a page under Admin NRDS Config Manager. NRDS is a system that can do exactly what that person is asking. What NRDS was designed to do is we can create a configuration, and this does take a little bit of advanced Nagios information, but we can create a configuration, choose the OS type. I'm going to go ahead and click Next here. We give the config a name. This is going to be Linux machine, or Linux group, I'll say. So we're going to create a configuration. All of the rest of this information is pretty much pre-populated, except for down in this command section, which has a list of basic plugins. These are Nagios plugins. This is the part where I say it will take just a little bit of Nagios experience. But the basic setup of this is going to be, it takes a command argument. It has a service name that's going to go in here. And then everything up to the right of the equal sign is what's going to be executed on the remote system. And what NRDS gives us the ability to do is we create this config group, which we have client installation instructions. This particular one can be installed on Linux systems. So we basically copy all this, except we're going to paste this in a shell SSH session on our remote system. And then we're going to add in a host name and an interval, which is intervals the amount of time, frequency that we want this to run. What will happen is from that point forward, your remote system will automatically check in with the NRDS configuration manager to find out if it has the current running configuration for Linux group. If it doesn't, it will download the new configuration along with all plugins that it needs from the XI server in order to run that configuration. This is all automatic. Also, when you as an administrator go in here and edit this group, say we add in an additional plugin, make a change to a threshold instead of 200, we want this to be 100. When we save this configuration, our configuration version updated to 0.2. And from this point forward, on the next check-in, when the next systems check in, they will know that they have an outdated configuration, again, downloading any plugins that they don't currently have, and executing all of those checks, returning the results back to the Nagios server all automatically. This is a very advanced add-on. There's videos available on the Nagios Exchange. Just search for NRDS. You can watch a detailed video on how that works. The next question we have was, how easily is it to add ServiceNow integration? To be totally honest, I am not familiar with ServiceNow. I'm going to assume that it is a ticketing system, and for that, I would say it's probably fairly easy. And there's a couple different things that you could do. As I had mentioned earlier, there's different dispatchers that can be set up within Nagios XI to send commands for the, actually, probably, let me backtrack. Probably the easiest integration for a global ticketing system, if you want everything to be sent out globally, would be to go to Admin Manage Components, and we have Global Event Handler. See right here, Global Event Handler component. We can turn this on to basically fire any shell script that we want, passing in all of the macros that are available from the XI system, and those can all be passed right on the command line. And every time a specific state change happens for a host or a service, it will fire this script from the shell, which the script you could programmatically set it to access an API from a remote system, send the data that way. Additionally, you could also have it send an email to a specific address if ServiceNow had email integration. The next question is, can the hypermap be exported? That's a great question that I actually don't even know if I have the answer to. I know I can open this full screen here, and any of our items that have been or can be opened full screen, XI does have an additional item where you can create a user and go into Manage Components here. You could create a read-only user that has rights to see all of the items that you want, and then you can go into the backend API URL, select that read-only user, click Apply Settings, and we're going to get a whole list of URLs. Well, the main reason for the backend API URL is for you to grab these and actually get XML output of all of the information within XI. There is an additional item that this can be used for. If we look at the, I just accidentally messed that one up a little bit. I'm just going to scroll back here just a little bit. If we look at this URL, we can pass in a username and a ticket. This is the only place you're going to be able to get and generate this ticket. However, if we grab this username and ticket from our read-only user and go back to our hypermap component, we can simply add a question mark and add that, which will, you could basically put this in an iframe and add it to any web page you wanted exported out of the system. So I hope that answers your question. It'll automatically log in the read-only user in order to be able to access this component. Feel free to answer any further questions. I have a few more minutes. I'd be happy to answer a couple more questions. While we're waiting for maybe one or two last questions to come in, I will also mention there is a back-end core configuration manager which gives you the ability to change really any of the settings for your hosts or services. We had added in all of these hosts, the 10.0.0.1, all those services that we copied. We could actually go in here and make modifications to any of the underlying settings for this particular item. We could additionally, if this, say for example, was an Apache server, we can add an event handler to the system by creating a custom command to restart Apache if this service goes into a critical state. Simply by selecting this event handler, turning the event handler on, clicking Save, and applying configuration. From this point forward, if that item goes into a down state, it will automatically fire off the Restart Apache event handler that we have defined in our commands menu. So again, a lot of it very advanced information, but hopefully I didn't overwhelm anybody. It looks like there aren't any further questions, and we are a little bit over time. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining in and viewing the webinar today. It was a pleasure having you. If you have any further questions, definitely don't hesitate to either contact sales@nagios.com, or alternately, you can visit the support forum at support.nagios.com/forum, and we'd be happy to answer your questions. That being said, thank you all for attending. Have a good day. Goodbye.